I don't scare easily. I've worked night security in this building for 3 years. 12 floors, 2 stairwells, 1 elevator. By 1 a.m., the place is completely empty. No tenants, no cleaning staff, no one. That's the rule. After midnight, I'm the only person inside. So when the elevator indicator lit up at 2:17 a.m. and the doors opened on the 7th floor, a floor with no tenant, no office, nothing but raw concrete and exposed wiring, I told myself it was a mechanical glitch. Old buildings do that. Elevators drift. I'd seen it before. I told myself that for 3 nights in a row. The building was built in 1987. 12 floors, mostly legal offices, and 1 accounting firm on the 4th. During the day, it feels ordinary. Fluorescent lights, bad coffee smell in the hallways, the hum of printers. Nothing unusual. My job is simple. Patrol the floors twice per shift, monitor the cameras, log anything out of the ordinary. In 3 years, I had written maybe 4 incident reports. A broken window, a leaking pipe on the 9th floor, a tenant who forgot their laptop. That was it. The elevator had always been slightly temperamental. The building manager mentioned it during my onboarding. Sometimes it stops on floors by itself, he said. Ignore it. The repairman says it's a pressure calibration thing. I never questioned that. I had no reason to. If you've ever worked a building like this at night, you know how quickly you stop noticing things. The sounds become background. The lights become routine. You stop seeing what's actually in front of you. That's probably why it took me 3 nights to pay real attention. If any of this sounds familiar to you, drop a comment below. Subscribe if you want to hear the rest. I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw. The first time it happened, I was on the ground floor making my 2 a.m. coffee. The camera monitor sits right next to the break room counter. 8 screens, cycling through feeds every 15 seconds. I wasn't watching closely. I was stirring sugar into my cup. Then I heard it. The elevator bell. 1 clean chime, the kind it makes when it arrives at a floor. I looked at the monitor. Feed 7, the 7th floor hallway, showed the elevator doors open. The hallway was dark. The automatic lights hadn't triggered, which meant no motion had been detected. The doors stayed open for about 40 seconds. Then they closed. I checked the log. No calls registered. The elevator has a button panel on each floor. When someone presses a button, it logs the request with a timestamp. Nothing at 2:17 a.m., not on floor 7, not anywhere. I finished my coffee and told myself it was the calibration issue. What else would I think? The second night, same time, 2:17 a.m. I was already watching the monitor because some part of me had remembered the night before without consciously deciding to pay attention. The elevator light on the panel blinked. Floor 7. The doors opened. Dark hallway. No motion trigger. I wrote it in the log this time. Elevator stopped at floor 7. 02.17. No call registered. No personnel present. The third night, I was standing in front of the monitor at 2:15 a.m., waiting. At 2:17, the elevator light blinked. Floor 7. I picked up my radio and walked to the elevator bay on the ground floor. I pressed the call button. The elevator came down. I stepped inside, pressed 7, and rode up. The 7th floor hallway was exactly as the camera showed. Dark, empty, concrete walls with a few utility pipes running along the ceiling. A single bare bulb at the far end, off. No windows on that floor. It had been mid-renovation when the previous tenant left, and the work was never completed. I stood there for a moment, listening. The building has a particular silence at night. Not quiet exactly, but layered. The HVAC, the low electrical hum, the occasional creak of the structure settling. Nothing unusual. I went back down. On the fourth night, I decided to check the weight sensor log. Most people don't know elevators have them. It's a basic safety system. The sensor registers load to prevent overweight trips. Every time the elevator moves, the log records the weight. It's not precise, but it gives a range. I pulled the maintenance interface from the panel in the basement utility room. It takes a password. The building manager had given me emergency access a year earlier for a different issue, and I scrolled through the last 3 nights of data. Each of those 2:17 a.m. trips showed the same thing. Weight registered, 68 to 74 kilograms. I read it twice, then a third time. The elevator had registered a person's weight on every one of those trips. Not zero, not the weight of the cab alone, which I knew from the baseline reading. A human range weight, consistent across 3 nights. I sat in that basement room for a while without moving. The rational explanation, I told myself, was a sensor malfunction, a faulty calibration. If the pressure sensor was drifting, it could produce false readings. That's probably all it was. I called the building manager the next morning and told him about the elevator stopping on floor 7. I didn't mention the weight readings yet. I just said it was happening consistently. Same time, no logged call. He sighed. "I'll call the technician," he said. "Probably the floor selector relay. It happens with these older models." The technician came 2 days later, checked the mechanical components, replaced a relay on the floor selector panel, recalibrated the weight sensor baseline. He showed me the work order. Everything tested fine. That night I watched the monitor at 2:17 a.m. The elevator light blinked. Floor 7. I pulled the weight log on my phone through the remote interface the technician had set up. 68 kilograms. I need to explain the camera setup carefully, because this is the part that I still haven't found a clean explanation for. There are 2 cameras relevant here. Camera 7 covers the 7th floor hallway, facing the elevator doors. Camera 11 is inside the elevator cab itself. Mounted in the upper corner, wide angle, covers the full interior. Both cameras record continuously. Footage is stored on a local server for 14 days before being overwritten. After the technician's visit, I went back and pulled the footage from camera 11 for all 3 of the earlier incidents. I hadn't thought to check it before. The hallway camera showed nothing. I assumed the cab camera would too. The cab footage for 2:17 a.m. on night 1 showed an empty elevator riding up to 7, doors opening, doors closing, elevator returning to ground floor. Night 2, same thing, empty cab, doors open, doors close. Night 3, the night I rode up myself, showed exactly what I remembered. Me inside, pressing 7, doors opening on the dark hallway, me stepping out, stepping back in, riding down. Then I checked the footage from the night after the technician's visit. The elevator traveled to 7 at 2:17 a.m. The cab camera showed the interior clearly. Empty. The doors opened, then the doors closed. And the elevator did not come back down. I watched the timestamp counter running in the corner of the footage. 1 minute, 3 minutes, 7 minutes. The elevator sat on the 7th floor with the doors closed. The hallway camera showed nothing in front of the doors. At 2:31 a.m., the elevator returned to the ground floor. The cab camera showed the interior. Empty. Weight log for that trip, 71 kilograms on the way up, 71 kilograms on the way down, 14 minutes on that floor, doors closed, camera showing nothing inside, weight sensor reading a person. I watched that footage 4 times. I checked for reflections, lens artifacts, anything that might explain a false reading on the sensor. I checked the hallway footage frame by frame for any sign of movement near the doors. Nothing. I still work in that building. The elevator still stops on floor 7 at 2:17 a.m. I stopped pulling the weight logs after a while. Not because I found an explanation, because I realized I didn't want one badly enough to keep looking. The 7th floor is still unfinished. I've been up there 3 more times since, always during the day, always with the lights on. Concrete floor, exposed pipes, one door at the far end that leads to a utility shaft. The door has a padlock on it. I've checked it every time. Always locked. Always the same. Last Tuesday I noticed something I hadn't before. On the concrete wall near the elevator, at about shoulder height, there's a handprint. Faint. Old paint or dust, I don't know. One hand, fingers together, pressed flat. I don't know how long it's been there. I didn't write it in the log.